Imagine this. You're standing at the edge of a cliff, not a metaphorical one, but a sheer drop into nothingness. The sky above you pulses with the weight of some immense, unseen truth. Behind you lies the life you were taught to live. Safe, predictable, full of expectations that were never really yours. Ahead is only silence and void. No promises, no assurances, just a terrifying freedom. And then it hits you, not fear, but something worse. The realization that nothing is holding you back anymore. No gods watching over your decisions, no destiny pre-written in gold, no voice whispering a purpose into your ear, just you and the abyss staring back. Now ask yourself, what do you do with that kind of freedom? You've been told your whole life that strength is about control, discipline, confidence, winning. But here, at the edge of all definitions, you sense a darker truth rising. That true strength might not be about winning at all. It might be about surviving your own collapse. What if breaking down is not the end, but the beginning of something unspeakably powerful? Nietzsche once wrote, "One must still have chaos in oneself to be able to give birth to a dancing star." But who really understands what that means until they've faced the kind of darkness that strips them to bone and nerve? What does it actually mean to become unbreakable? Not strong in the eyes of the world, not untouchable in some capitalist alpha male fantasy, but truly, deeply, metaphysically unbreakable? It begins here, with a paradox. That to become invincible, you must first allow yourself to die, not physically, but ideologically. You must watch the person you thought you were burn in the fires of contradiction until only ash remains. You must become intimately familiar with meaninglessness, isolation, humiliation, despair. These are not symptoms of failure. They are rites of passage. Yet society hides this from you. It fears those who are no longer afraid. You've been taught that your worth comes from your usefulness, that you are measured by your productivity, your appeal, your social currency. That suffering is a glitch in the system, not a message from the deep unconscious. But what if your pain is not a detour, but a map? A signal that the life you inherited is far too small for the soul trying to wake up inside you? You've glimpsed it, haven't you? In moments of silence, in sleepless nights where the weight of your own thoughts feels unbearable, in the hollow echo of achievements that failed to satisfy, in the scream buried beneath your polite smile. There's a reason Nietzsche warned that he who has a why to live can bear almost any how. But what if you've lost your why? Or worse, what if you never had one to begin with? You are not weak because you feel lost. You are not broken because the world feels insane. You are not alone in your yearning for something real. What if your suffering is not a flaw, but a doorway? A gateway to the part of you that has always been waiting to emerge, not the version shaped by fear, shame, and obedience, but the one forged in fire, the one no one told you could be, the one that doesn't flinch in the face of nothingness, but smiles and walks forward anyway. And now, you're beginning to feel it. The tension between the life you were told to live and the life your bones are aching for. The pressure of too many lies, too many compromises, the unbearable weight of pretending. What breaks a person is not failure. It's the denial of what they already know deep down. So ask yourself, what would happen if you stopped running from the darkness and started walking toward it? What would you find on the other side of your fear, your shame, your silence? Who would you become if you allowed the collapse, if you invited it? Because this is the secret Nietzsche buried in thunderous aphorisms and prophetic madness. That suffering is not your enemy. That despair is not your undoing. That if you can endure the fire, you will rise not as who you were, but as who you were always meant to be. The next step is dangerous. It will cost you comfort. It may cost you your identity. But if you dare take it, you will no longer be someone who needs to be saved. You will become someone who cannot be broken. Now let's descend into the roots of the hidden illness, the lie buried in the foundations of modern man. There is a sickness running silently through the veins of modern man. You can't see it on his face. His smile is too rehearsed. You won't hear it in his words. They're drowned in politeness and performance. But if you look long enough into his eyes, into yours, you'll find it there. a quiet, aching numbness. This is not depression in the clinical sense. It is something deeper, more existential. A hollowness so normalized that it's mistaken for reality. It is the slow death of meaning. Friedrich Nietzsche didn't just predict the decline of traditional religion. He diagnosed the psychological vacuum that would follow. When he proclaimed that God is dead, he wasn't boasting. He was grieving. He saw what the world would become without the organizing myth of transcendence. Without a sacred center, life becomes a marketplace of distractions and identities. You're offered endless choices, but no direction. You're told you can be anything, but not how to be whole. So you perform, you build resumes, you curate online personas, you gather likes and titles. But beneath it all, there's still that question you can't kill. Why does none of this feel real? Carl Jung understood this too. He wrote that the greatest burden a child must bear is the unlived life of the parent. You inherited not only their genetics, but their psychological blueprints, their fears, their wounds, their compromises. You learn to hide parts of yourself to stay safe, to gain approval, to survive. So what's left now is a fractured self. One part obedient, one part resentful, one part striving, another quietly self-sabotaging. You wear a mask not because you want to lie, but because it feels dangerous to be seen without it. This mask becomes so convincing that even you forget who's behind it. And then comes the world to reinforce the illusion. Arthur Schopenhauer called life a pendulum between pain and boredom. And yet modern society sells you the fantasy that happiness is your birthright, as long as you buy the right thing, follow the right influencer, hustle hard enough. But what if Schopenhauer was right? What if suffering isn't an error in the system, but the system itself? You've been trained to see pain as failure, to escape it, fix it, medicate it. But Nietzsche offered a different path, one that is rarely spoken because it terrifies the modern psyche. He suggested that suffering is not only inevitable, but necessary, not to be eliminated, but transformed. To live is to suffer. To survive is to find some meaning in the suffering. Here lies the root of the hidden problem. We are a civilization obsessed with avoidance, of discomfort, of responsibility, of the truth. Jean-Paul Sartre, with his relentless existential gaze, declared that man is condemned to be free, that with freedom comes responsibility, and with responsibility, dread. Why? Because the moment you accept that life has no inherent meaning, you are forced to create one yourself. And that is unbearable for many. So we numb through consumption, through work, through constant stimulation. Every scroll, every like, every new show is an anesthetic, a needle straight into the soul. But the price of this numbness is spiritual amnesia. You forget what you are, what you're capable of, what you've come here to do. Instead, you become a ghost haunting your own life, going through motions, saying things you don't believe, smiling at jokes that feel like razor blades in your throat. All the while, a voice inside you whispers, "This isn't it. This can't be all there is." And that voice is not your weakness, it's your soul. Gabor Maté has long said that addiction isn't about pleasure, it's about the pain underneath. Not just chemical dependency, but addiction to validation, to certainty, to self-image. Ask yourself, what are you addicted to? Not in the clinical sense, but emotionally, spiritually. What do you cling to avoid feeling lost, broken, alone? What rituals of distraction have you mistaken for a personality? The hidden problem is not that you are weak, it's that you've been lied to about what strength really is. You were told strength means being unaffected, dominant, emotionless, always in control. But Nietzsche had a different idea. He believed in a type of strength that doesn't look like success. A strength born from suffering, forged in chaos. The Übermensch, not a Superman in the comic book sense, but a human who has transcended societal programming to become radically self-authored. To reach that level, you must be willing to lose everything that isn't you. And that is where most stop. Because it's not a gentle process. It's not a weekend retreat. It's psychological war, a death of the ego, a reckoning with every unlived truth you've buried. But, and this is what Jung, Nietzsche, and even Viktor Frankl all agreed on, it is also the beginning of something sacred. Because within that wreckage is the possibility of becoming whole. You are not meant to be a cog in a machine. You were not meant to be happy all the time. You were not meant to live someone else's idea of success. You were meant to become. And becoming requires that you first confront the system inside you, the inherited programs, the borrowed dreams, the adaptive lies. To become unbreakable, you must break the illusion. And now that you've seen it, you can never unsee it. But knowing isn't enough. You must act. You must confront. You must descend. And only then will you see what this sickness has cost you. Not just peace, not just passion, but your very self. Now, step with me into the realm of consequence, because this unseen mechanism isn't just shaping your inner world, it's devouring your outer one too. You've walked through life believing that what you see is what's real, but reality is more like a stage play written by invisible hands. And the most dangerous part of it all? You've been cast as a character in someone else's script, and you didn't even notice. Now imagine waking up one day and realizing that your fears, your ambitions, even your sense of self were not born from choice, but from conditioning, from an endless barrage of subtle manipulations. What to value, what to hate, who to admire, who to become. You were taught to fit in, to conform, and conformity has a cost. The unseen consequence of this hidden mechanism isn't just internal confusion, it is the slow decay of authenticity, and with it, the death of the world around you. Let's begin where you think it hurts least, in your relationships. You wonder why intimacy feels fragile, why your connections lack depth, why even love seems transactional. Here's why. When two people meet behind masks, only the masks touch. The deeper self remains untouched, unseen. You've learned to show what's palatable, to hide what's real, and to apologize for your wounds as if they make you unlovable. So you feel lonely, even in a crowded room. You crave closeness, but fear exposure. You want to be known, but dread being seen. And so you perform, at work, in bed, on social media, and every performance takes you further away from yourself. Now zoom out. Look at society. We are a culture obsessed with visibility, but starving for truth. Everyone's screaming, no one's listening. We scroll through pain like it's entertainment. We celebrate success that's empty and mock the sacred because it's not profitable. And behind the glow of our devices, what do we find? Isolation, depression, anxiety, addiction, symptoms of a civilization that has traded depth for speed, being for branding, soul for stimulation. Nietzsche warned of this. He didn't just foresee a crisis of faith, he predicted a collapse of meaning itself. When God dies, when ultimate values dissolve, we are left with a vacuum, and that vacuum will be filled by anything. Nihilism, consumerism, tribalism, ideologies that promise salvation but deliver slavery. This is not hyperbole, it's psychology. In neuroscience, the human brain craves coherence, a story that makes the chaos bearable. But when the story is false, the psyche suffers. You begin to sense it in subtle ways, that creeping emptiness at the end of a successful day, the dread that follows pleasure, the haunting suspicion that your life is not your own. The mind rebels in strange ways when it's trapped. Have you ever sabotaged your own progress and not understood why? Have you ever felt disgusted by your own joy? These are not flaws, they are screams. From the part of you that knows something essential has been denied. And the more you ignore it, the louder the screams become. Until they echo in your sleep, in your addictions, in the silence between text messages, in the sudden panic that arises during moments that should feel triumphant. You start to wonder, is something wrong with me? No. Something is wrong with the script. Here's a bitter truth. The systems we live under depend on your disconnection. A whole economy thrives on you feeling not enough, on you chasing an image, on you comparing, consuming, obeying. What happens if you stop playing? You become dangerous, not because you threaten others, but because you threaten the illusion. And illusions don't die quietly. Nietzsche called this the transvaluation of values, the moment where the old rules collapse and new ones must be forged from within. But this collapse is no soft awakening. It is often preceded by what Jung described as the descent into the shadow, the confrontation with everything you've exiled from your conscious identity. All the rage, all the grief, all the unclaimed potential. And when these are ignored, they manifest in destructive ways, toxic relationships, obsessive distractions, existential dread masked as ambition. Even societal violence can be seen as collective shadow, the projection of disowned pain onto the other. You think you're alone in this battle, but in truth, everyone you meet is at war with themselves, and most don't even know it. They mistake exhaustion for maturity, bitterness for wisdom, resignation for peace. But beneath their calm, the soul is screaming, and that scream shapes everything: their parenting, their politics, their prayers. You inherit their unresolved trauma like spiritual debt, and unless you break the cycle, you will pass it on. This is why your healing matters more than you think. You're not just trying to be happy, you're trying to restore sanity to a world gone mad, a world that calls numbness normal, fear wisdom, and obedience strength. But when you see through the lie, you begin to awaken something ancient, something sacred. You begin to sense that this suffering has purpose. That beneath the breakdown is a seed of breakthrough, that maybe, just maybe, you are not broken at all, but breaking open. And still, the system will try to pull you back. With promises, with threats, with distractions. Because if you truly become unbreakable, you no longer need it. You no longer chase approval because you found your own gaze. You no longer fear silence because you've made peace with your depths. You no longer collapse under pressure because pressure is what forged you. The unseen consequences are not just about what's gone wrong, they are about what you now see, what you can no longer unsee. The matrix is visible, the curtain is drawn, and in that clarity, you face a choice. You can return to sleep, or you can keep walking. Alone, perhaps, but awake. Awake to the lies, awake to the pain, awake to the possibility of becoming something more. Not for glory, not for status, but because something inside you knows. Knows that there is a fire meant to burn, not to destroy you, but to purify you. You are not here to be comfortable. You are here to be reborn. Now let's begin the rebellion, because once you've seen the trap, the only path forward is to break it. You felt the weight of the trap. Now you must choose. Become another casualty of the lie, or become the rarest thing in this world, a free soul. But freedom isn't handed to you. It's not found in comfort, not born in applause, not forged in the warmth of validation. It is carved from confrontation. The kind of confrontation that shakes you to the core and leaves nothing untouched. Not your beliefs, not your relationships, not even your sense of self. And here's the paradox. In order to become unbreakable, you must first be willing to break. This is the rebellion Nietzsche spoke of, not a rebellion of fists or slogans, but of perception, of value, of identity itself. It is the unlearning of the herd mind and the reawakening of the sovereign self. The rebellion begins in silence, not the passive silence of resignation, but the sacred stillness of introspection. You must step away from the noise, the curated performances, the ideological battles, the constant hum of distraction, and sit alone. In that solitude, you will meet a stranger, yourself, not the version you present to others, but the buried core that you've spent years avoiding. It will be uncomfortable, ugly, raw. You will see the wounds you've ignored, the contradictions you've defended, the parts of you swore weren't there. This is where the shadow lives. Jung taught that integration begins not with light, but with darkness. You cannot heal what you will not face. And so the rebellion demands that you go inward, not to conquer the shadow, but to befriend it, to listen to its message, to reclaim the strength hidden in shame, the power masked as pain. You think your darkness is a flaw? No, it is your unmined gold. The rage that makes you feel unworthy? It is a map to your boundaries. The sorrow you hide? It is proof that your heart still beats. The fear you mask with productivity? It is the part of you that still longs to live. To rebel is to feel it all and keep going. Nietzsche called this amor fati, the love of fate, the radical acceptance of everything that has shaped you, not as victimhood, but as fuel. You begin to realize you were not cursed by your pain. You were commissioned by it, to become the one who doesn't just survive, but transcends. And here's the most radical truth. You don't need to fix yourself. You need to remember yourself. The system made you forget, made you believe you were too much or not enough, made you chase ideals that were never yours, made you kill off parts of yourself to be acceptable, desirable, employable. But those parts, they were sacred. They were the compass pointing home. The rebellion is remembering what you were before the world told you who to be. This doesn't mean becoming reckless. It means becoming whole. Wholeness is not perfection. It's coherence. It's alignment. It's when your actions match your truth, even if it costs you everything. Because yes, there is a cost. When you stop lying to yourself, some people will leave. Some dreams will die. Some illusions will burn. But let them. Let it all burn, because what remains will be real. What remains will be yours. And this is how you become unbreakable, not by building walls, but by removing masks. So how do you live this rebellion in the real world? Start with your values. Are they yours or inherited? Re-examine every belief, every rule. Ask, who benefits from me believing this? If the answer isn't my soul, question it. Then look at your habits. What do you consume and why? Is it nourishment or anesthesia? Replace mindless stimulation with meaningful stillness. Read dangerous books, sit in difficult silence, write without filters, speak without apologies, and stop waiting for permission, for clarity, for the right time. Nietzsche's Übermensch doesn't wait to be chosen. He chooses himself, not in arrogance, but in sacred responsibility. He becomes his own standard, his own artist, his own judge. He reclaims the power to create values rather than inherit them. You want to be free? Then create. Create something that terrifies you. Write the book. Start the movement. Say the thing you've been swallowing for years. Build the world that no one else has the courage to imagine. And when fear shows up, and it will, don't run. Talk to it. Thank it. Let it walk beside you. Because fear is not the enemy. Conformity is. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It is the decision that your truth matters more. This is how the rebellion spreads. Not through violence, not through slogans, but through the quiet revolution of a soul that refuses to betray itself. Every time you say no to what wounds you and yes to what awakens you, you shift the entire collective. You don't have to change the world. You have to change your world. And that's how the larger world begins to shift. Because truth is contagious. And the more you embody it, the more you give others permission to do the same. Now understand this. The path isn't linear. You will fall. You will forget. You will be tempted by the comfort of old patterns. But that's not failure. That's initiation. Nietzsche never promised ease. He promised transformation. And transformation isn't a single event. It's a way of living. A way of dying to illusion and being reborn in truth again and again and again. So burn the false, bless the ashes, and rise. Not as who you were told to be, but as who you are. This is the rebellion. And now you're ready for the truth it's been leading you toward all along. You've crossed the desert of illusion, burned the lies, danced with your shadow, and now you arrive, not at an answer, but at something stranger, something deeper, because here is the ultimate truth, the one you weren't supposed to find. There is no solid ground beneath you. There never was. Everything you clung to, status, identity, belief systems, success, was scaffolding built atop a void. The world told you to build a castle on that scaffolding, to decorate it, to live inside it. And you did. But now you've seen the cracks. You've watched the walls collapse. And here you are, standing in the rubble, staring into the abyss. Most people run from this place. They cling harder. They double down on delusion. They chase another label, another goal, another purpose, to distract themselves from the terrifying reality that beneath all stories, there is nothing. But Nietzsche, he stayed. He looked into the abyss and didn't blink. He named it. He welcomed it. And from it, he gave birth to the only kind of meaning that cannot be taken, the meaning you create yourself. This is the deepest realization. Life has no inherent meaning, and that is its most sacred gift. It's not a flaw. It's not a cosmic mistake. It is an invitation. You were not born to discover the meaning of life. You were born to forge it, to take the raw chaos and carve from it a truth so personal, so defiant, that even death cannot erase it. This is what it means to become unbreakable. Not that you are invincible, but that even in the face of nothingness, you choose to create. You become the sculptor of your suffering, the author of your pain. You stare at the absurdity of existence and say, still I will love, still I will create, still I will dance. Because that is freedom, the only real freedom, not freedom from hardship, not freedom from mortality, but the freedom to respond, to turn agony into art, to transform despair into dignity, to take the wreckage of your life and build a cathedral no one else can see, but everyone can feel when they're in your presence. This is what Nietzsche meant by the Übermensch, not a tyrant, not a god, but a creator. Someone who no longer waits for life to hand them meaning, but who gives meaning to life. And this creator is forged in fire, not in the fire of rage, but the fire of rebirth, the fire that purifies the soul of falsehood and reveals the diamond beneath. It's not a pleasant fire, it burns, it destroys. But when it passes, you are left with only the essential. And the essential is this: you with all your scars, your contradictions, your unresolved questions. Not as a perfected being, but as a becoming, a living paradox, a breathing contradiction, a work of art still in progress. You don't need to be finished, you need to be true. And truth isn't pretty, it's not tidy, it doesn't come with a bow. Sometimes it looks like grief, sometimes it looks like madness. Sometimes it looks like walking away from everything you thought mattered because your soul whispered something else. But when you live in that truth, when you surrender to the creative force within you, rather than chasing someone else's script, a strange alchemy begins. Life no longer happens to you, it happens through you. You stop asking for guarantees. You start asking better questions. What can I build from this heartbreak? What can I learn from this failure? What beauty can I carve from this silence? And that's the final paradox. When you stop needing meaning, you begin to generate it. When you stop begging for love, you become love. When you stop fearing death, you become alive. This is not some motivational slogan. It's not self-help candy. It's a sacred, bone-deep transformation that dismantles everything and rebuilds you with intention. And no one can do it for you. Not Nietzsche, not Jung, not any guru, coach, or philosopher, only you. Because you are the crucible, you are the chaos, you are the creator, you are the one you've been waiting for. That may sound romantic, but it's not. It's terrifying, because there are no more excuses, no more saviors, no more masks. There is only the naked question: what will you do with your freedom? You can use it to build another false self, another cage, another fragile identity that crumbles at the first gust of wind. Or you can use it to become the thing no one told you was possible. Someone who does not need the world to approve of them in order to move through it with power. Someone who does not rely on circumstance to determine their worth. Someone who, even in the depths of despair, refuses to betray their soul. And that person cannot be broken, because they have already died and been reborn. Not as an idea, but as a force. This is where Nietzsche leaves you. Not with answers, not with comfort, but with fire. He hands you the match and walks away, because now it's your turn to choose. Will you cling to the ashes, or will you burn? Will you survive, or will you create? The abyss is still there, but now so are you. And this time you're not looking into it for meaning. You're looking into it to light it up.